The tale commences with a beautifully tranquil image of a geologist named Ish enjoying a quiet existence, perfectly secluded in his stunning woodland residence. Can you believe it? One morning, he harmlessly misses a call from his mother, a choice that will unleash utterly devastating repercussions. Then the unthinkable occurs. A horrifying incident unfolds as he is abruptly and fiercely struck by a snake while at a quarry. In a surge of overwhelming pulse race and terror, he scrambles to phone for assistance, but his trembling hands cause him to lose his grip, sending the device tumbling down a slope. This is a second of pure gut-wrenching anguish as his sole connection to safety slips entirely from his grasp. He then takes an incredibly dreadful action, slicing the injury with a blade and attempting to draw out the poison on his own. Following this act, he returns to his house disoriented, drinks some water, and collapses onto his bed as the toxin induces a state of delirium. For what seems like endless time, he remains totally immobilized as his hand inflates to a truly monstrous and alarming proportion. This was not a restful sleep, but a prolonged, nightmarish state of semi-consciousness. In a truly torturous turn of events, he faintly perceives a helicopter above and a visitor at his door, yet he is powerless to make even the slightest movement to alert them. He experienced a profound sense of helplessness, as potential rescue was nearby but completely out of his reach. At one stage, propelled by a frantic and overwhelming need for water, he manages to gather the energy to creep to a puddle on the floor and drink from it. In an instance of pure sorrow, he faintly cries out for his mother, totally oblivious to the final message from her awaiting him on his phone. After an unknown number of days, Ish awakens to a surprising series of events. He feels much better, and for reasons he cannot explain, the swelling in his hand has disappeared. After washing up, he climbs into his vehicle, and following a few coughs, the engine amazingly turns over, providing a small ray of hope amid the gloom. Yet, as he heads toward town, he is instantly met with the most disturbing and unnatural quiet he has ever known. His mounting bewilderment turns to sheer terror upon finding a decomposing body right on the deserted roadway. The scene was devastating, with abandoned military transports and more bodies discovered inside other vehicles. A highway sign then reveals startling information that a global pandemic has occurred and the United States government has collapsed. An unnerving automatic radio transmission affirms his deepest anxieties, detailing a very infectious and deadly pathogen and commanding all citizens to remain sheltered indefinitely. His last destination is the one he fears the most, his family residence, where he is heartbroken to discover that both his mother and father have passed away. He experiences a profound personal tragedy set against the backdrop of a global catastrophe. After burying his parents in the yard, he finds numerous other bodies piled inside the town church. Accepting that the life he once knew has vanished, he collects provisions and a firearm, but his departure is instantly impeded by an obstructed bridge. In a conclusive, raw display of utter exasperation and pain, he unleashes a tremendous cry and plots a new, ambiguous path toward Las Vegas. Ish enters a Las Vegas blanketed in an eerie silence, a ghost town of immense scale. He explores the deserted casinos and hotels, and the scope of the abandonment is overwhelming. In an act of surreal defiance against the apocalypse, he pauses from the crushing hopelessness to unwind in a jacuzzi. Later, craving a small fragment of ordinary life, he heads to a hotel bar for a drink, only to be jolted by a totally unforeseen sound, another person's voice. He drops his glass in surprise and meets two other survivors named Milton and Anne. They share their story, explaining they are somehow immune and were present in Vegas when civilization collapsed. Milton then plays a recording of the last government broadcast, which contains an unsettling announcement. It validates their deepest dread. The virus was of mysterious origin, vaccines were ineffective, and society had crumbled with astounding swiftness. This revelation sparks a wave of deep remorse in Ish as he recalls his parents warning him about an emerging illness he had dismissed. They then realize they might be some of the only people remaining on Earth. Anne then reveals an agonizing story, confessing she witnessed her husband and daughters perish during a video call. As Milton and Anne turn to alcohol to numb their unbearable grief, the atmosphere of hopelessness becomes utterly overwhelming for Ish. Unable to bear their anguish, he departs, seeking solace by sleeping on the floor of a vacant, motionless elevator. The following morning, he finds Anne in an abandoned luxury boutique, absent-mindedly modeling expensive outfits. When Ish questions the point of survival, Anne responds that a beating heart does not equate to being alive. Then comes a truly startling confession. As Milton explains, they have a pact to end their lives when their provisions are depleted. Ish makes an earnest, frantic appeal, insisting there are sufficient resources to sustain them for a very long time. But Milton retorts with an achingly poignant question, asking what purpose life holds when everything and everyone you cherish has vanished. At that instant, Ish realizes he cannot remain in their climate of deep despair and resolves to depart permanently. He invites Anne to join him one last time, making a final attempt at connection in this desolate world. She declines but offers a goodbye kiss, a gesture he tenderly yet sorrowfully resists. Then, as he pulls away from the hotel, he hears two distinct, chillingly definitive gunshots from their floor, and the sound is absolutely devastating. He is overcome by a powerful, visceral combination of fury and sorrow, driving recklessly down the highway in uncontrolled anguish. Abruptly, a dog materializes on the road, and he slams on the brakes, stopping just inches from this unexpected sign of life. Witnessing this animal's survival against all odds feels like a profound omen from the universe. He chooses to name the dog Lucky, and in that beautiful instant, he discovers a wonderful newfound purpose to continue on. His first step is to visit a library where he gathers many books on survival and engineering. With this new information, he returns to his isolated home in the forest to begin the next phase of his life. A full year unfolds in this stunningly silent world, and Ish develops a genuinely admirable regimen to keep his mind and body sharp. However, an overwhelming sense of isolation starts to set in, leading to agonizing moments bordering on insanity that are so painful to imagine. It is a heartbreaking image to picture him driving his car in endless, desperate circles, a potent symbol of his deep-seated loneliness. But then, one morning, the whole narrative shifts in a profoundly dramatic fashion when Lucky begins to bark with extraordinary tenacity. Ish looks out his window and sees a thin column of smoke rising in the distance. Filled with a rush of sheer, undelighted hope, he and Lucky promptly leap into the car and race toward the town to investigate this astonishing sign of life. The smoke guides them to a house, creating a suspenseful moment as they wonder what they will find. And then she emerges, a woman named Emma on the rooftop, carefully aiming a weapon right at him in a moment of raw, palpable tension. Ish, in his characteristically calm and gentle manner, explains that he is a friend, another lone survivor like herself, which is just so remarkably courageous. In a magnificent gesture of faith, Emma lowers her weapon and then invites him into her home for tea and bread. They form an immediate connection, a significant development after so much time spent alone. They start to share their harrowing tales of survival, and you can sense the enormous burden lifting from their shoulders as they at last connect with another soul. As Ish gets ready to depart, Emma, in a moment of pure, compelling vulnerability, pleads for him to stay the night because she cannot bear being alone once more. The following morning, Ish makes a wonderfully kind and sensible proposal that she move in with him, arguing they would be far more secure together. While Emma explores her splendid new home, Ish silently performs the profoundly symbolic and heart-rending act of removing a noose he once hung in despair. Their partnership is effective from the start, and they begin to build a new life together with determination. They confront challenges side by side, like venturing into a repulsively vermin-filled town for supplies, demonstrating their amazing fortitude as a unit. They settle into a routine, cultivating a vegetable garden and fishing in the nearby streams. Their profound, supportive bond eventually blossoms into a deeply moving and personal romance, a genuine light in the darkness. They are truly creating a new existence for themselves, with Ish constructing solar panels and a chicken coop with his own 2 hands. But then, in a truly staggering and dreadful twist, their idyllic life is shattered when Ish slips from the roof and sustains a grievous injury. It all starts with a truly selfless act as Emma lovingly tends to the injured Ish, mending his ankle with gentle care. In a moment of pure openness, she reveals her deepest feelings to him, confessing the immense solitude that shadows her daily life. Her profound grief is palpable as she looks at old photos of her lost family, shedding quiet, soul-crushing tears while he rests. Yet Ish, once he can walk again, transforms into a powerhouse of industry, dedicating himself to his work with astounding resolve to forge a new world. Then, just as they find a steady rhythm, their whole world is upended by the most startling revelation. Emma is expecting a child. Can you fathom the dread that seizes Ish, the monumental pressure of welcoming a new life into this fractured, barren world? He channels his fear into action, returning to the library to research childbirth. The months pass with much activity, and their small farm begins to flourish with vegetables and chickens. But the growing baby requires more nourishment, prompting Ish to make the deeply painful choice to go hunting for the first time. He discovers a herd of cows, and his internal conflict is almost tangible before he makes the incredibly tough decision to take a life. In a moment that is both sorrowful and poignant, he speaks to the majestic animal as it falls, displaying a profound reverence for life. Guided only by a book, he prepares the animal, a difficult but necessary task for their survival. Then comes a moment of sheer, brilliant victory as Ish finishes the solar panels, bathing their home in wonderful, transformative power. Their joy, however, is abruptly halted by Emma's dreadful discovery of a shockingly large rat in their basement. You will be stunned by what follows as they grasp with growing terror that this was not a lone rat, but a scout for a massive horde. A swarm of hundreds of rats converges on their home, drawn to their supply of food. An urgent and difficult fight for their survival begins. Ish courageously charges outside, raising a fiery barrier by igniting their trash and the remains of the cow in a desperate effort to repel them. Meanwhile, the incredibly valiant Emma holds her position, firing repeatedly into the oncoming wave of menacing creatures. In spite of their tremendous efforts, the deluge of rats is simply too much, compelling them to fall back into their vulnerable haven. They work with urgency, barricading every crack, window, and door against the swarm. Amid the total pandemonium, they are hit with a soul-crushing discovery. Their cherished dog Lucky is caught outside. Ish makes a quick decision, opening the door just long enough to pull the injured dog inside. A few of the awful creatures slip inside during the rescue, and Ish fiercely crushes them with his rifle in an exhibition of raw, protective fury. This profoundly harrowing experience prompts Emma to share her deepest secret. She had safely delivered 2 daughters before the world changed. In the following months, the rat infestation diminishes as the growing population of feral cats helps restore a natural balance. And just as they at last open their home, prepared to find relief, the most amazing moment occurs. Emma goes into labor. A serious problem arises when they learn the baby is in a dangerous breech position. Tapping into the strength of her past, Emma becomes a pillar of serenity, directing Ish's hands with magnificent composure to save their child. She safely brings a lovely, healthy baby girl into the world, and in a gesture of stunning optimism, Emma paints their address in town as a welcoming beacon of hope. Then one day, Ish unexpectedly struck a lion, an act which led to a surprising discovery. He glimpsed a wild girl concealed in the woods, a mysterious and poignant sight destined to alter all of their lives forever. Following a breathtaking standoff, Ish's remarkable compassion won her over, and she warily came back with him to their sanctuary. This precious child, whom they later learned was named Evie, was profoundly traumatized, yet the wonderfully empathetic Maureen gradually earned her confidence through their mutual sorrow. A letter revealed the torment she had suffered from her father, a story of both hardship and resilience. In a splendid show of affection, this exceptional family embraced Evie wholeheartedly just before Emma delivered their beautiful new son, Joey. A year later, their quiet life was disrupted by the arrival of a new group of people. Molly, Jean, Ezra, and Rafe arrived, creating tension as Ish was highly suspicious of them. However, Emma offered them a nearby house and a gesture of kindness. Their first supply run together highlighted a clash in methods, with the newcomers being careless while Ish was systematic. Molly acted alone to scour a hospital for concealed medicine, while Jean brazenly snatched some liquor for himself. That very evening, however, something genuinely enchanting occurred around a crackling bonfire that united them all in the most surprising manner. Jean's lovely singing and Ezra's amusing jokes totally broke the tension, forging a memorable moment of pure, genuine connection. Over time, the two groups formed one large family, and both Jean and Maureen had children. 14 years later, their community represented hope and endurance in a difficult world. But then, a heart-shattering tragedy occurred when their cherished old dog Lucky was lost to a falling tree during a frightening storm. While they were still reeling from this awful loss, a fearsome mountain lion launched a ferocious assault on the children. In an act of supreme courage, Ish placed himself between the predator and the youngsters without a moment's hesitation. He was grievously wounded by the animal, and it was a scene of utter chaos and incredible horror. In that instant of pure terror, something truly miraculous occurred. Evie cried out for help, breaking many years of her traumatic muteness. It was her potent, visceral cry that summoned the adults to rescue the very man who had once protected her. And unbelievably, it was revealed that Molly was a former medical student, and she coordinated his rescue with stunning proficiency, saving his life against all odds. 17 years later, they faced a new threat, a severe drought that was draining their water source. Just when all hope seemed entirely gone, a man named Charlie appeared with his party, proposing the amazing solution of drilling a well for him. From the outset, however, Ish had a dreadful feeling about Charlie's smooth, charming, and profoundly disturbing demeanor. His gravest fears were confirmed in the most repulsive way when he discovered Charlie abusing Evie after the well was completed. The family assembled privately, their hearts impossibly burdened with the realization that this monster posed a grave threat to them all. They came to a grim yet utterly essential conclusion. Charlie was far too perilous to release and simply had to be eliminated. After a strained and heartbreaking vote, Ish confronted the despicable man who defiantly and foolishly declined to leave their sanctuary. With the whole family standing as a single unified force, Ish administered the final severe justice, felling Charlie with a hammer in an ultimate act of protection. The anguish Ish endures after being compelled to take Charlie's life is an incredibly grievous and haunting weight to bear. He compulsively cleanses the hammer, the exact instrument that provided life-giving water, before it administered a necessary end. They must then inform Charlie's group that he merely departed, an excruciating falsehood to safeguard their vulnerable fellowship. Perry then reveals she was also one of Charlie's victims, and her feeling of release is evident. The fellowship makes the difficult decision to exile a sympathizer named Silas for his complicity in those acts. Picture this. 2 decades pass, and the world is truly mending, a magnificent and optimistic new epoch dawning. Ish and Emma's son Joey is an intelligent young man who is working to construct a human-powered airplane. But then their serene existence is utterly destroyed when a frightening new illness sweeps through their home with alarming velocity. Molly suspects it is an altered, less potent version of the original virus that previously devastated the world. And in the most shattering setback conceivable, their radiant and promising son Joey becomes perilously, critically sick. Ish is utterly overcome with remorse, convinced in his very soul that he is receiving divine retribution for ending Charlie's life. In a desperate attempt to save his son, he crosses a long, impassable bridge to search an urban infirmary for medicine. Meanwhile, his daughter Heather comes back from an extended expedition, but she is poignantly and sorrowfully solitary. She recounts following a series of mysterious numerals painted with arrows that guided their path north. Their expedition ended when a mysterious figure unexpectedly assaulted them. You will be stunned by who it was. It was Silas, the exiled sympathizer, who ruthlessly slew her partner Rafe in a fit of vindictive fury. But Heather, in an instant of sheer self-preservation and justice, succeeded in dispatching Silas, bringing a harrowing conclusion to that terrible saga. Back at the settlement, Molly concocts a possible remedy from a yew tree. The remedy is effective for the majority of the afflicted, a moment of truly incredible respite for the whole fellowship. But in the most bitter turn of events, the treatment proves ineffective for Joey, an utterly devastating result. He passes away in his parents' embrace, a loss so deep and shattering it is nearly beyond comprehension. Overwhelmed by immense sorrow, Ish drives to the optimistic message Emma painted years ago and entirely obscures it. He paints over their hopeful message to the world, an act born from his deep anguish. Then, in a surge of fury, he goes to the library and begins demolishing the very tomes that previously preserved his existence. Emma discovers him in this shattered condition and with her extraordinary fortitude guides him back from the precipice of his grief. She makes him remember the family he still possesses, the affection that can ground him in this suffocating despair. A year later, Ish uncovers Joey's journal, which contains information that will alter the course of their future. It holds detailed schematics for constructing a transmitter to locate other survivors. This revelation spurs Ish into action, giving him a potent new purpose to honor his son's incredible inheritance. The entire fellowship unites to construct the device, a wonderful symbol of their solidarity and optimism. But when they power it on, the frequencies are quiet, resulting in a disheartening silence. Then Heather has a staggering epiphany about the numerals she pursued. They were not directions, they were a radio frequency. They hastily adjust the radio to the frequency, and unbelievably, a voice responds to them from the emptiness. They establish communication with a settlement of 77 souls less than 100 miles away. They are no longer isolated. 5 decades after the beginning, the settlement has grown more populous and is now flourishing. An aged Ish sits with his grandson, Heather's son, and bestows the hammer upon him, the definitive emblem of their journey. He imparts his ultimate, most meaningful wisdom, that while individuals will perpetually arrive and depart, the planet itself will forever endure.